Welcome to 21st Sports. Football is back, and so are we, and we're talking the Cincinnati Bengals at the New York Jets and their Week 1 matchup and their first games, respectively, of the 2016 NFL season for each team. Of course, the season opener was on Thursday, but here on Sunday, these two teams playing their first games of the season against each other. And what a game it was. A lot of defense in this game, as the Jets would end up setting a record for the most sacks against Andy Dalton. Dalton had not been sacked so much ever in a game in his career. 7 sacks for the Jets as they were putting on that heavy pressure on Andy Dalton. But this game would come down to the foot. It is called football after all, and specifically the foot or feet of the two kickers. As in the fourth quarter, that's where the scoring came from. But in the first quarter, to start things off, the Jets jumped out to an early lead as Anunwa caught a 3-yard touchdown pass from Ryan Fitzpatrick, and then Mike Nugent kicked a 33-yard field goal to put the first points on the board for the Bengals to make it a 4-point game at 7-3 after 1. Then in the second quarter, Andy Dalton hit A.J. Green for a 54-yard touchdown pass, and that gave the Bengals their first lead of the game, 10-7. But the Jets came right back and took the lead again as Ryan Fitzpatrick would hit Eric Decker for a 15-yard touchdown, and that put them up by 3, 13-10. And then another 3 was added on the board by Nick Folk as he kicked a 45-yard field goal to make it 16-10. But then just as time was expiring in the first half, Mike Nugent hit a 21-yard field goal to bring it back to within 3, with the score New York 16, Cincinnati 13. So that was the score at intermission. And then coming out of halftime, we didn't see much scoring in the third quarter. None at all until, with a little over 3 minutes left still in the third, Jeremy Hill got it into the end zone, a 12-yard touchdown to cap off a 9-play, 92-yard drive that lasted just over 4 minutes and gave the Bengals their second lead of the game, up now 20-16. So that was the score after 3. But then the Jets, led by the foot of Nick Folk, would take the lead back. First, a 20-yard field goal to bring it within 1, 20-19, and then a 23-yard field goal with about 3.5 left on the clock in the game to make it 22-20. So the Jets up by 2, and the Bengals need in a field goal. But as I said earlier, Dalton under heavy pressure all game long. He was sacked 7 times in this game. Would he be able to lead the Bengals into field goal range? Well, he got them close enough for Nugent to line up for a 47-yard field goal with less than a minute left. It was up and it was good. So a 23-22 victory as the Bengals win by 1 off of the foot of Mike Nugent. And as I said, it is called football for a reason. But what a game. This was definitely a treat to watch, as this was possibly a playoff preview, and we're only in week 1. But both these teams definitely have good chances at making the playoffs. They've got a lot of talent on both these teams, especially on the defensive end. And Forte actually looking pretty good on the ground for the Jets. But Andy Dalton, 23 for 30 for 366 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And you put those numbers up, even though he was put on his back 7 times in this game. And that's not to mention the heavy pressure he was under constantly, still putting up really good numbers. Not much on the ground, though, for the Bengals. Just 9 carries for 31 yards for Jeremy Hill. He did have that touchdown, though. Although the Jets had more success on the ground with Matt Forte having 22 carries for 96 yards. He also was the Jets' leading receiver with 5 catches for 59 yards. So he had 147 yards, or 157 yards rather, total for Matt Forte in this game. Actually, 155 total yards for Matt Forte. But Fitzpatrick, 19 for 35, just 189 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. And A.J. Green, though, for the Bengals, put up the big numbers for receiving. Is he had 3 times as many receiving yards as the leading receiver for the Jets, and that was Forte coming out of the backfield. But for the Bengals, A.J. Green, 12 receptions, 180 yards, and a touchdown. And Brandon LaFell, the former Patriot, 4 receptions for 91 yards there with the Bengals. And we also, that defense of the Jets, all those sacks, McClendon had 2, Wilkerson had 1.5, Williams had 2.5, and Malden had 1 as well. Geno Atkins had the lone sack for the Bengals, and Shaw had an interception. We look at the first downs, 22 for the Jets, 18 for the Bengals. Both teams struggled on third down, just 3 for 11 for Cincinnati, only 27% conversion rate. And for New York, they were just 4 of 12, just 33% on third downs. We look at total net yards, 381 for Cincinnati, 340 for New York. On the ground, the Jets did have success with 152 net rushing yards versus just 57 net rushing yards for Cincinnati, as the Jets were averaging 5.1 yards per rushing play versus just 3 yards per rushing play for the Bengals. But through the air, 324 net passing yards for Cincinnati, despite the 7 sacks for 42 yards loss. And on the other side, just 188 net passing yards for New York, although Fitzpatrick was only sacked once for a loss of 1 yard. Then we look at the penalties. Twice as many penalty yards against the Jets, and that would cost them 7 penalties, 95 yards, 5 penalties for 44 yards for Cincinnati. Then we look at the red zone efficiency. Both teams struggling to punch it into the end zone from the red zone, as the Jets were just 2 for 5, just 40%, and the Bengals 1 for 3, just 33%. And the Jets won the battle at the time of possession, 34 minutes, 53 seconds to just 25 minutes and 7 seconds for Cincinnati. But Dalton, what a performance under heavy pressure. He comes up big time, as he was able to lead them into field goal range, and he put up big numbers. He did have the 1 interception, but he was extremely accurate, especially when you consider how much pressure he was under, as he was 23 for 30 and putting up almost 400 yards. Like I said, he put them into the spot to win, into position to win, as he got them down there close enough. It was a far kick, 47 yards, is no chip shot, but Nugent was able to put it through the uprights, and the Bengals were able to come away with a huge road victory against a very tough New York Jets team with an excellent defense, as they showed here in this game. They only allowed the 23 points. If they could have got a little more production out of their offense, but that Bengals secondary really shutting down what had been a very explosive offensive air attack last year, as they've got plenty of weapons, but the Bengals playing some excellent defense as well, and they eke out the 1-point victory. But let me know what you think in the comments section below. What plays and performances stuck out to you? Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It's greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and having a great weekend, and enjoy all the sports.